Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. That was way too low. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Is that better? Inshallah. Alhamdulillah, hamdan kathiran tayyiban mubarakan fihi, wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal mursaleen, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. The purpose of tonight, we're asking all of you to come and to join us in this dialogue is because of some of the things I want to share with you first through just a quick presentation. This is going to cover some of the reasons why we're doing this. It's going to cover some of the reasons why this is happening based on what people have talked about in the media and what the scholars have talked about in their talks and things like that. And it's going to give us some examples of how this is happening, and we're going to try to go over some suggested solutions that various people have suggested, including Muslims and non-Muslims, what they have suggested. People who study these kinds of movements, people who study this kind of behavior, what kind of solutions they have suggested for this problem. Now the problem, this I wanted to show first. What you see here, we all know what's happening with ISIS and them recruiting young people. One of the ways they're actually doing it is through a very, very powerful social media campaign. And if you look at this picture, this is actually, it's almost laughable, right? This is a pretty funny picture. This is one of the groups, and they're actually posing for a picture, right? They're posing for kind of like this propaganda media type thing. And they even went so far as they did one shot sitting down and one shot standing up, right? And what they're trying to do with this is they're trying to make an impression on people like, this is something cool and things like that. But just by looking at this picture, different people will get different kinds of ideas, right? What immediately came to me was, this is some kind of like arrogance, right? This is some kind of blameworthy pride, right? That you're taking a picture in this manner, trying to make yourself look like you're doing something cool and all this kind of stuff. So while this may seem like it's to kids or to some other youth, it may seem like, oh, this is cool, they're projecting some kind of image. This is a propaganda tool. Right? And this is kind of how they are functioning with a lot of what they're doing and a lot of how they're getting their message out. Right? A lot of it has to do with pictures and videos and things like that. But honestly, to me, this was just laughable, so I had to share it a little bit because they're sitting down and they're standing up. And I don't know if they were doing like another move or a pose, but these are the two that were on the internet. The problem is this, and this is a very real problem. And I was just told right now, I've asked them to share with me that there has been one more girl that has been arrested for trying to go and join ISIS. What we know already, if you might have seen some of these things on the news. 3 girls from Denver, Colorado, they went and tried to join ISIS. They had flown from the US to Germany, and they actually got caught in Germany at the airport there, and then they returned back. A 19-year-old nurse, and she was a convert. I don't know if she was a recent convert or not. She was a convert, 19 years old. She planned to go and marry an ISIS member that she met online. This was her plan and her idea, and she was actually on the news. Her picture was on the news, and she was arrested for, again, aiding and abetting a terrorist organization or whatever. Very recently, a suburban Chicago teen, and this you might have seen recently on CNN or on the news, was arrested before boarding a flight to Turkey from Chicago O'Hare. And along with the news article doesn't mention is that his younger sister and his younger brother, who are both minors, so they also went with him. So the reason they're not really mentioned on the news is because they're minors, they're actually back in their parents' custody. But his younger sister, who was about 17, it's very possible that they're going to charge her as well with some kind of crime. Okay? And this was very, very recent, and now I'm hearing just today that there has been another girl who has been arrested for trying to do the same thing. More than 100 Americans have already gone to Syria to either join the war or to join ISIS. The number they're saying is about 100 to 200 of people that have either tried to go, gone, gotten arrested, gotten caught, so on and so forth. So this is a very, very real problem. And we already know that there are people in our state of Georgia that are being investigated for these kinds of behavior as well, right? So this is a very real issue. What's happening is that kids are getting radicalized online. They are being recruited online, and then they are, without even mentioning it to their parents, without even discussing it with their parents, they conceal it from their parents, they conceal it from their community members, and they try to dip out the door and try to go to the airport, and they get most likely they get caught. What I want to share with you today, I think, now again, the purpose of this presentation is to focus the discussion that we want to have today. So after this, we're going to have a meaningful discussion, inshaAllah, and I want everyone to give their input. I want, inshaAllah, the youth, the parents, everyone to share their input. But this is just to give you talking points, right? And to show you what's going on and basically what we're trying to tackle. These are some of their recruiting tactics that ISIS has been using to target the Muslim youth, right? In the United States, in the West in general, but also in the United States. One interesting point to note are the people that are being targeted and the people that are being recruited are not adults, right? You don't find adults who are leaving and joining in great numbers or things like that. What you find are youth, right? And a lot of them in their teens, early 20s. So this is a time that we all know, as adults, we all know this is a very vulnerable time for the youth as well. They're very impressionable, right? They're going through different types of stages in their lives. They're trying to figure out their identity, so on and so forth. So this is making them a prime target for these types of organizations. So right now, the first tactic they use is they prey on a person's sense of identity. So again, they're people who are usually young and delusion teens. They're looking for a purpose, right? These are the things that they found out about the people that have been recruited. These people also have a lack of sense or belonging. These are very, very common and real issues. This is not something out of the ordinary. This is what generally teens and young people go through. This is something that all of us may have been through in our lives, right? But the problem is not that they have somebody targeting them in this point. They portray that joining ISIS will give people a sense of camaraderie, a high morale, a purposeful activity, high self-esteem. We'll see some of the ways they do this. They also prey on people's desire to be a martyr, fi sabilillah, right? So they're using religion as also an anchor to try and pull people towards their movement. So they're saying, oh, you know, being a martyr is a great thing in Islam, which it is a great thing in Islam, and they're trying to utilize that and that point of view to drag people into their net. Another thing that they use as a tactic is they, again, appeal to people what they call religious duty, okay? And they claim that fighting in a jihad is an individual obligation of what's known as a fard ayn, right? It's an obligation upon every single individual. They claim that you're living in a land of kufr, or disbelief, and you have to come to the land of Islam. You have to leave the land of harb or war, and you have to come. So they use these terminologies, which, you know, people really don't even understand what they mean, and they use them with these young people, and they try to make some sense of religious duty obligatory upon them. So they tell them it's your duty to leave. It's your duty to migrate. Right? Don't listen to your parents. Don't listen to your community. Just leave and just come because it's your duty. This is the kind of message that they give as well. And again, they operate a very, very highly sophisticated propaganda machine. This is one of the, it's just amazing how they're actually able to do this. It's also very, very suspicious, right, that how they're able to do this. So they're operating a very, very highly sophisticated propaganda machine. They put out timely, high-quality videos, Hollywood-style action scenes. If you've ever even seen some of their videos, some researchers have actually said that these scenes that they're producing are actually recreations from video games, popular video game scenes that exist. They're actually using those, and they're recreating scenes like this to reach out to the youth. So there are games like Call of Duty, right? You guys know these games? Like these shooting games or whatever, like this Call of Duty, things like that. So they take scenes from these games and they're actually recreating them for their videos, right? So this is the kind of stuff that they're doing. They have an active social media presence, especially on Twitter, right? Especially on Twitter. And they are showcasing their Western recruits. Those people that have made it there successfully, they're being used as pawns now to try and get other people to come and go to this place. And they're not the first ones to do this, by the way. The group in Somalia, Al-Shabaab, also did this with somebody who had left from Alabama. His name was, he's known as Abu Mansur al-Amriki or something in their circles. All the Westerners that had gone to Somalia, they used them in their propaganda media to try and get more Westerners to come. So they're doing the same thing. They're using Westerners that come to them to try and get more and more people to join their cause. Female targeted recruitment, again, as you just heard today, one more girl is arrested, 3 girls from Somalia, girls from the UK, the 3 that left and made it to Turkey and Syria. So there's a lot of female targeted recruitment happening, and there are women recruiting women. This is what's happening. Women with Twitter profiles recruiting women online. They exert a cult-like control, which some people have noticed about them. Again, if you know anything about cults, cults, they promise you something special if you join their group, right? So they say we've had various cults here. So basically, you come to our group, you join the ISIS, and you will go to Jannah, right? That's basically the premise. It's a cult-like mentality. Whereas we know in Islam, you don't have to belong to a specific group to go to Jannah, right? It's between you and Allah, it's your worship, and how obedient you are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who you associate with really has nothing to do with it. It's your own ibadah and your own worship. But they are saying, no, you have to come to us, and then this is the only right thing, everything else is wrong, and you have to come here so you can go to Jannah, so on and so forth. So they're using Islam as a trigger, and they're using rhetoric similar to other cult movements where you have to join this group, in order to get some kind of benefit or success. And unfortunately, also they're using their successes as a tool, right? No doubt on the ground, they have gained lots of ground. They've gained lots of territory. They've made lots of, they've had some victories. So they're using that also as a tool. Let's see, look, we are victorious. Look, we're doing well. Look, we're taking over land. So they're using their successes also as a tool to try and recruit people. These are just some of their recruiting tactics. You might be aware of some more that are happening. Why the influence? Common factors among people who join these types of groups. Again, this comes from research that has been done on people who try to join all different types of groups that are like this, right? So it's not just Muslim groups. People that have tried to join IRA, KKK, all various types of terrorist groups, but including Muslims who fall into this category. So what is it that they are influenced by? So number one, there are people who are trying to find a path, trying to answer a call to something, right? This is very common when you're young. You're trying to find your way, you're trying to figure out who you are. You want a purpose to your life, right? You want something to be attached to. They're driven by a need to right some perceived wrong and address some sort of injustice, restore honor from whom it has been taken, etc., etc., etc. This is very, very common among Muslim youth, right? We have a lot of verifiable grievances, right? Muslim youth have very, very verifiable grievances. There are things that are going on in this world, and this is, inshaAllah, we hope that this gathering today is just one in a series, inshaAllah. So also look for possible topics for the next time we come together. One of my suggested topics is to actually talk about the grievances that Muslim youth have, and to talk about how we need to address it. How can we address it? What are things that we can do to properly vent, to properly talk about what it is that's bothering us, and what Islamic actions can be taken, right? What Islamic actions can we do, and what is good and what is bad, and what is an acceptable response, what is an unacceptable response, and things like that. But this is also a reason that they see that there's a wrong and it needs to be fixed. So they think this is the solution. And recruitment videos are like infomercials. This is interesting. The recruitment videos, and this is actually true, they're like infomercials. And this is a quote from an article. They're presenting a limited time offer and encouraging potential recruits to act now. Right? So have you ever seen those infomercials and commercials? It's a limited time offer. Again, call in now and get your discount or whatever, you get this project and buy one, get one free. This kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff you hear in the videos. So they're using these kind of tactics as well. So they're like, come join now. If you don't join now, you're going to miss out on the action. You're going to miss out on all the ajr. And get it now, or you're not going to get it later. So they're kind of using these ideas as well. And these are things that psychologically reach out to people and appeal to people, and they push them to take action even if they don't want to. These are some examples that have been shared online through various news articles about about the types of messages they're giving to the youth, right? And on the side, I just have my notes that I took because I thought this was really interesting. These are some of the top recruiters, and I've covered their names because I don't want anyone going to their, looking up their Twitter IDs or anything like that. Please, please do not actively try to engage these people in any way whatsoever, okay? Do not try to engage these people in any way whatsoever. Ignore them completely. That's why I've covered these names. These are sisters that are appealing to Muslim youth in the West, right? To try and come make hijrah and things like that. The first one, it says, my dear sisters, come and be amongst the muhajirats, right? Which is a plural of a plural, I guess. Muhajirats, bi'idhnillah. Come to the land free of oppression. By Allah, you have the rights to cover. So you see what she's using as an anchor to try and get somebody is that you have the rights to what? To cover. Right, to wear hijab, or to cover yourself. And this is not a valid anchor for any reason. You have the rights to cover here, you have the rights to cover in every Western country, right? So this is something that's, they're using as an anchor, but it really is not, Muslim youth have to be smart. They have to think about what they're being anchored with, and they have to say, this is not really any reason for me to leave where I am now, because Muslim sisters can cover where they are anyways. The bottom one says, sisters, come to the land of freedom. We have everything here for you. Dawla University, to learn your deen and practice what you learn. So what's the other anchor they're using now? You get to practice your religion. You get to learn your religion, right? Learning and practicing your religion. SubhanAllah. All of these things are available to us wherever we are. But these are not proper anchors that they can, you have to think a lot. And to the right of this, I just compiled a quick list of logos of how many Muslim universities or Islamic universities we have in the United States. So you see we have Islamic American University, we have Zaytuna, we have American Open University, we have Mishkan University, we have Bayyina, we have Qalab Institute, we have Al-Maghrib Institute, we have more than this, right? What kind of an anchor is this? These are the arguments that they're using to try and get the youth to come. They're trying to say, you know, you get to learn and practice your deen, right? These are things which are appealing to people. So that means our youth need to be aware of the fact that they have the opportunity to learn and practice their deen right here. They have all these universities right here. They don't have to go and join ISIS and some Dawla University. This next one, it says, this is funny, food free, house free, yeah, you can establish the Sharia. So subhanAllah, if you give free food and free housing, you've established the Sharia. This is the extent of the message. Allah has blessed Islamic State. Don't delay this blessing. Make it right away. That's that promotional, right? Buy now, get one free, right? There's that that advertising right there. But subhanAllah, look at the argument being made. Free food, free housing, we've established Sharia. This is what, established the Sharia. And again, this might understand the Sharia is more than giving free food and free housing. And people like this, they just seem like freeloaders, right? And we don't know it as a freeloader, right? Everybody has to work for their food and their housing and things like that. But this is not a valid message again. In the bottom, now what I did on the bottom one was I replaced Islamic State with America, and you can see whether or not it still stands true, right? So they say in Islamic State, all languages are spoken. In streets are people from all over the world. In the kitchens, food smells from all parts of the world. Welcome to Islamic State, right? So again, this is a promotional message. Now what I did was I replaced IS with America, and you tell me whether or not it stands true. In America, all languages are spoken. In the streets, people from all over the world. In the streets are people from all over the world. In the kitchens and restaurants, we have something over Islamic State, right? And restaurants. Food can be smelled from all parts of the world. Welcome to America. Is that true or false? True. It's true or false? True. It's true. So how, you think this is a recruiting message? This is something that's supposed to ring out to people? SubhanAllah, the youth need to use their minds. They really do. Because the thing is, people are getting caught up in this. They're like, oh yes, people from all over the world are in IS. Just think twice about it. People from all over the world are in America. This is not an argument for establishing Sharia or establishing some kind of utopia or perfect place to live, right? These are the kinds of messages that they're using. Again, this is very important. Who else is recruiting, right? The danger of trying to reach out and even talk to these people. Who else is recruiting? Intelligence agencies are recruiting. You have to understand that this country is losing people to an organization they deem as a terrorist organization. Correct? Yes or no? Yes. Yes, okay. Are they going to take steps to fight that? Yes or no? Yes. We already know that when it comes to the war on drugs, do they have sting operations? Yes or no? They have sting operations, right? They look for potential people who are going to buy drugs. A police officer pretends to be a drug seller. What do they call it? Dealer. Drug seller. A drug dealer, and he tries to go and sell drugs to somebody, and as soon as the exchange is made, they arrest him. Right? It's a sting operation. This is something they do with all different types of crimes. They're going to do this with this as well. They're going to look for potential people who are going to try and join, and then as soon as you make some kind of affirmative statement or anything, they're going to get you. This is how it works. This is how it works with drugs. This is how it works with other crimes. Right? This is what they do. So this is something you have to also be aware of. It's not just, you have no idea who you're talking to on the internet. You have no idea who it is on the other side. And all these people that have tried to travel, how many of them have gotten arrested? And now they're sitting in jails. Right? It's a dumb move to engage these people in any way, shape, or form. Right? That's why I covered their IDs as well. I don't want anyone trying to look them up or engage them. Mubin Sheikh, an interesting character. This guy's from Canada, and he is part of the Canadian Mounted Royal Police. Right? You guys, that's what the Canadian Police is called, the Canadian Mounted Royal Police. So he was an undercover recruiter. He went undercover and recruited people, and he actually has an article and he's talking about the kind of people they would recruit. And I think his perspective is very interesting because he said, the people we tried to recruit, he tried to recruit people for the Taliban, right? This was his job. He tried to recruit people to join the Taliban, right? So he said the people that we looked for were, number one, people that didn't know their religion as much. This is what a recruiter is saying. We're looking for the type of people that don't know the religion as much. Why? Because then they can clearly see through the lines, they can clearly see through the lies, they can clearly see through the falsities that exist in their arguments. And number two, they look for converts, as they would probably have problem with their parents. This is his quote, at home, so they would spend more time with the recruiter. Okay? Now, if you take the word converts out and just put the word kids, right? Youth. Youth, as they would probably have problems with their parents at home, so they would spend more time with the recruiter, right? You can replace it. These are the kinds of people that they themselves targeted, right? This is the intelligence agencies and the recruiters, and it makes sense that these are the types of people that are going because they really don't understand the religion in depth or much about the things they're supposed to do. If you just leave your parents without even mentioning anything to them, this is not halal in any way. You can't just up and leave your parents. Your parents have a degree. Allah mentions that you worship Allah, you don't associate partners with Him, and then you have to be good to your parents. And they're mentioned right after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So people that don't understand their religion are not going to understand this, and then they're going to fall for these kinds of traps. Just quickly, this is the final part, reality of ISIS. And this is something I want to mention. Very important that we have to be aware of. Number one, Muslim scholars from around the world have repeatedly and publicly denounced the ISIS claims and their tactics. Right? This is undeniable. They have repeatedly and publicly refuted ISIS. I'm talking about scholars. We're talking about scholars from reputable universities, scholars that we turn to for our fatwa, scholars that we turn to for our guidance. Right? Allah says, ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. And the people of knowledge are telling us this is not right. Okay? Number two, ISIS has no known scholars amongst their ranks. The one person that I did know of that was a scholar amongst their ranks, he left. He left and now he's against them as well. So they have no scholars, reputable scholars, known scholars amongst their ranks. Right? This is also something to keep in mind. Also, the Prophet ﷺ, in a couple of hadith I want to share, and Hafiz Ahmad Ali, he actually gave a khutbah on this topic. Right? And these are some of his points, some of the hadith that he shared. About the description of the Khawarij. The Prophet ﷺ described for us the type of people that will come from amongst the ummah of the Muslims and how they will behave and things like that. And this is one of the descriptions that he gave. Hafiz Ahmad Ali, he shared this with us in the khutbah. So I want to share a couple of hadiths here and his points since he could not hear today. The Prophet ﷺ said, this hadith is narrated in Sunan Abi Dawud, he said, soon there will appear disagreement and dissension in my people. There will be people who will be good in speech and bad in work. يُحْسِنُونَ الْقِيلَ وَيُسِيئُونَ الْفِعْلَ. They will be beautiful. They will have excellent speech, but their deeds are going to be very, very evil. They're going to be disgusting. They're not going to be appealing. They recite Quran, but it does not pass their collarbones or their throat, meaning it doesn't even reach their hearts. It doesn't reach their hearts. They will swerve from the religion as an arrow goes through the animal that it is shot at, not animal. As the arrow goes through the animal that it is shot at. Meaning when the sharp arrow, you shoot it, and it goes through its target really fast, nothing of the target or the animal is left on the arrow. Right? So he's talking about they're going to enter into Islam and they're going to shoot through it so fast, they're not going to have any remnants of Islam on them. Right? They just think they enter the deen and they want to go do whatever it is they want to do. They will not return to it, yani the religion, until the arrow comes back to its notch. Right? So the Prophet was giving an example. You shoot an arrow, it goes through, and they're not going to come to the religion unless the arrow can be put back into the notch. Meaning he's saying it's not going to happen. You don't put the arrow back in the notch, right, when it's shot. They are the worst of people and animals. This is how the Prophet described it. They are the worst of people and animals. Happy is the one who kills them and they kill him. SubhanAllah, the Prophet is talking about happy is the one that kills them, or if they kill him, he is a happy one. These are people that are going to be so violent that even the Muslims are going to have to stand up and fight them. This is what's happening. What you find is that where ISIS is right now, who are they fighting? There are no Western armies there. Which area are they in? You guys know which area? What are the countries they're in? Iraq and Syria. What religion are people of Iraq and Syria? Islam. Majority. They're Islam. They're Muslims. Right? So they're already establishing themselves and they're killing other Muslims, and Muslims are now forced to fight them back. Right? You have Sunnis fighting them, you have all these kind of Muslims fighting them back. So, the Prophet actually said, happy is the one who kills them when they kill him. They call to the book of Allah, but they have nothing to do with it. Very important thing. They will call to the book of Allah. Come join us. We have free food, free housing, we have Sharia. Right? Come join us. Right? They call to the book of Allah, but they have nothing to do with it. He who fights against them will be nearer to Allah than them. The rest of the people, the people asked, what is their sign? He replied, they shave their head. This is one of their signs. One of their signs. And this is something you can visibly see on some of these people. right? They do shave their heads and things like that. I mean, but it's not like it's not, by the way, if you shave your head, you're not considered amongst these people. That's not what this means, okay? This is just one of the signs, along with the other signs. They are the worst of people and animals. And we know that the kind of slaughtering that this group is doing is what has driven even people who have joined them to run away. Because of the kind of slaughter that they do, right? The disgusting acts that they do, the way they kill people, the way that they spread corruption and fasad in the land, literally they are worse than animals, right? And you don't have to look very far to see that. So this is one of the descriptions the Prophet gave of them. He also said, I heard the Prophet, this was the narrator, he said the Prophet said, in the last of days, there will appear young people with foolish thoughts and ideas. This is a very important thing. حُدَثَاءُ وَالْأَسْنَانِ سُفَهَاءُ الْأَحْلَامِ. This is how the Prophet described it. حُدَثَاءُ الْأَسْنَانِ means young people, youth. There will not be wise, elderly, scholarly people amongst them. There will be young people who are acting out of emotions. سُفَهَاءُ الْأَحْلَامِ. People who have foolish ideas. Foolish ideas. SubhanAllah, what is the idea now? We're going to get a whole bunch of young people. We have none of the scholars on our side. We're going to establish the Khilafah. We're going to establish Sharia. How are you going to establish Sharia when the people of knowledge are telling you you're doing everything wrong? Right? So they have these foolish dreams, these foolish ideas. They will give good talks. They will say things which are so appealing. So, they sound great, but they will go out of Islam again as the arrow goes out of its game. Their faith will not exceed their throats. So wherever you find them, but this is the Prophet I'm saying this, wherever you find them, kill them. For there will be a reward for their killers on the day of resurrection. Why is he saying this? Because these people will be slaughtering people and killing other people. Right? So the Muslims have to stand up and say, enough is enough. You cannot slaughter people like this. The Muslims will be forced to fight with these people. Right? Again, something like this happened at the time of the Sahaba, of Ali radiallahu anhu. These people, they came and they were, again, some of their behaviors was they were described as speaking powerfully, saying wonderful things, painting a good picture, but they did a lot of evil deeds. They tortured and killed one of the Sahaba, I believe it was. And so Ali radiallahu anhu was forced to fight them. He was forced to fight them. They see the world as black and white. Either you're with us or against us, right? And I put that because we know somebody else who said that, right, a long time ago. You're either with us or against us. That's your mentality. So they see the world as black and white. It's this way or that way. They are eager to accuse others of hypocrisy, right? If those Muslims who are like, well, I'm not sure about what you're doing, they attack them. No, you're not a true Muslim. You're a hypocrite. You're like this. You're like that. They're eager to judge other people, and they fight and shed the blood of Muslims. And this is the reality. What's happening? They're fighting Muslims. They're killing Muslims, right? They're not doing anything other than that. So this is kind of where I want to open up now to everybody and talk about this. These are just some suggested actions, and there's just a couple slides here. But what can we do, right? So now our youth are being targeted, right? Our youth are at a time in their lives when they're very impressionable. So what are some ways that we can actually counter this or try to make sure that this doesn't happen to our kids or with people we know or within our community? Right? Because we want to make sure that we're defending our community and making people aware of this. Just some suggestions, but if anybody has anything to add right now, we'll go ahead and we'll take some comments and things. Yes, but
so one of the things I've come across is when I'm giving a thought on my own is one of the things this group preys on, especially obviously you mentioned the target group of 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, who haven't really formed opinions and ideas amongst themselves, and they're emotional, right? So one of the things as Muslims, we have to recognize in America and the West, we do go through oppression and racism and discrimination that it does happen to us. And that can happen to us anywhere in the country, it doesn't happen anywhere in the world, right? But when the kids are so young, they get really angry about it, and they don't have an outlet for it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the community and the family structure needs to really come in and start having good dialogue about that and say, look, just because a few ignorant people did that to you, doesn't necessarily mean you start leaning towards ISIS and all those people, because that's what they start feeding that information there. They come over here, you get a free room and board, you get to learn your theme, you get to do whatever you want.
Yeah, and that's actually the third bullet point. That's a very, very important thing. I think that's maybe a whole discussion we should have. Spend maybe one of these Fridays having this kind of discussion where we talk about these things. Because, like it says, for example, Allah asks us to command us to ask people of knowledge and how we should ask, and we should ask scholars about the plight of the Muslim world. Because, like I said, there are real grievances that Muslims have. Like you're saying, there are problems that are happening, and we need to know how we can react. Is that not what you're saying?
Absolutely, yeah. We need to understand that everything's a test. We need to combat it in a proper manner.
Exactly. And my suggestion is that the next time we get together is that we talk openly about this. That we say, what are the grievances? What are the things people find that are problematic, that are upsetting to them, and then we figure out together what is the right way to deal with it. Is there a way to deal with it? And then, how we can, what is the wrong way to deal with it so that we don't end up doing things like this, because this ends up harming us. You're not doing anybody a favor when you try to go to Turkey or Syria and then you end up in jail for the rest of your life. I mean, what did you accomplish, right? So this is not something that's...
The only thing I'd follow up on that, I think it's really important for the parents to have an open dialogue with their children.
Yes.
A lot of times, whenever this stuff happens and they interview the parents, they're kind of like, oh, I never believed my kids could do that. You never hear a parent be like, oh, I expected it, So I think as parents, even as me, we need to kind of take those blinders off and really kind of know what our kids are up to, what they're doing on the internet, and have that open dialogue with them, have that open communication of the problems and any questions.
Exactly. That's what I mentioned. The second one was good parenting, right? That's what you're talking about. It's good parenting because you need to be able to have a relationship with your kids, an open relationship. They should be able to come to you. The trend with these kids, they've hidden everything from their parents. So they should be able to come to you. What you're saying also is limiting and monitoring social media, right? And one of the things I have a message for the kids is on the bottom. You see there for the kids. If you're doing something on social media that your parents can't know about, you're doing something wrong, right? You have to understand that. If there's something you're hiding from your parents, you're doing something wrong, because this is how it is. If you're opening up yourself to the rest of your friends and things like that, but you're concealing it from your parents, you're probably doing something wrong. You shouldn't have anything to hide. Right, number one. If you're doing something right, you shouldn't have anything to hide, period. And parents have the right, Islamically and legally, in the United States, to monitor your kids' social media presence, especially when things like this are happening. One of the suggestions is to limit them to one social media outlet, and to just, to keep track of them. If they want to go to another one, then they have to delete the first one, they can go to the other one, and things like that. But you have to monitor it. It's difficult, but you have to monitor it, because, and kids have to be open to the fact that they need to be monitored, because you can't just open yourself to the world and expect yourself to be able to handle everything, because you're not at the kind of age where you have the experience and the knowledge on how to react to things properly, right? So this is something that's very important. Anything else you want to share?
I just wanted to...
Yes.
So just to kind of piggyback on what you said, I think as parents, I'm a father of two teenager boys too, so I think it's important that we as parents sometimes, I think we're too strict in what we want them to do. We don't give them enough freedom to do what they would like to do, nor, and even worse, we don't even care to understand what they would really like to do. So I think as parents, I think we need to understand from their point of view, what is it that they want to do. And even if we don't agree with it, as an example, I can tell you from my experience, if my kids don't want to pray along with me, I just let it go. Because, they're kids at the end of the day, right? They may have something to do. And I don't even force them to pray. Maybe they'll pray afterwards. And I've seen that they will pray. So I think it's very important that we give them the freedom, we respect what they think about, and just allow them to live like kids, not, kind of force our views and, what we want to do on them.
Excellent point. The kids agree with that? So I think the kids are smiling. That's great. You write that down. Excellent point. Any of the sisters have any? Yes, sister. Sorry, because I'll get to you. Yeah. Go ahead, sister.
Well, the question was about the sheikh who left that group.
Yes.
Who, do you know his name?
Yeah, I don't want to say his name. I don't want people looking this stuff up, the kids and things like that. But I mean, he was. I can give that to you maybe privately. But yeah, he was somebody that was of a scholarly, reputable status, and he was with them, and then he left them because he said these people they're contradicting the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. They're criticizing Muslims in ways that they don't make any sense and things like that. So he actually left them, and then he started and I think he was early on before they even started doing any of this kind of massacres and things like that. But I can give you his name and information. These are in the news articles, so. I don't want people looking this stuff up, because I don't want anybody getting in trouble, because you have to understand, these things are monitored and all this kind of stuff, so you have to be careful.
I'm scared of letting things out myself.
Yeah, and I mean, it's unfortunate that it comes to this, but you have to be, especially the kids have to be careful. You can look things up, but I mean, if you go to a certain point, you click on one thing, you go to another, you might end up on a website that's, on a list or something, and then, it's just too dangerous. But it's best to ignore it.
And I also heard somewhere that ISIS, these people are they have like pictures of cute kittens and things like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes, they have, like I said, they have a very, very, unique social, very, very active social media presence. One of the, so they use like, I showed you the picture in the beginning, which again, to me is just really laughable. But there is a picture that's going out with like a message from ISIS or something. It has a cat, a little kitten, a cute little kitten, so you get like the awe message, right? And then there's a gun. Right? Now, I don't know if they want to shoot the cat or what, I don't know what they want to do. But they use these high quality images and pictures and these videos. One of the videos, in my research I was watching some of their videos, and one of the videos they're showing that they're exchanging gunfire and this and that. But what's funny is that they're hiding behind a corner of a building, right? And this still bothers me today. They're hiding behind the corner, then they go around there, but the cameraman is in the open, right? So he's in the open and he's reporting, and the other guys are hiding and this and that. So I'm just wondering, is this even real, or is this just like staged, or what's happening? But it's purposefully done, meaningfully done, that that it appeals to the young minds, because there's high quality images, that high quality media, right? People want that. They look at something because it looks nice, right? Because it looks appealing and attractive. So the way they take pictures, the way they post pictures. Interesting enough, these girls that are leaving to marry these guys, right? SubhanAllah, they talk about Sharia, but they're trying to get girls to travel by themselves and to marry these guys. And you see some of these guys posing, like, mashallah, with the sheikh here. He's posing, right? And they use these pictures to try to attract women as well, right? So this is the kind of the nonsense that they're doing, but they're doing it in a way that's appealing. And that's the problem. They're doing it in a way that's appealing, and we have to tell our youth that you have to think 3-5 times about something before you accept it as nice, as good, as truthful. Really think about it before you just accept it. Why would somebody, put a picture of a cat and a gun and so? It just doesn't even make any sense. But visually, it's appealing to them. So, yeah, you're right. Well, the first one, you had something?
No, I was just going to say that in addition to the social media, I have actually worked with several customers that do this actively, so I know this as a fact. And we have a brother here that works for a communications company. There are active sensors in place which monitor not only your visits to Twitter and other social media, but anytime you even start searching at Google or some other search engines, all of that is tabulated and recorded, and your profile is instantly made. So imagine what these marketing companies can do to sell you as you go through different websites and you see the same message appear over and over again. Would you think that the government doesn't have the resources, or these agencies that are, doing these sting operations? They're very sophisticated.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
so if we go and search on Google, you'll immediately get profiled. Absolutely.
That's the thing, and I mean,
everything is recorded.
Exactly. Everything you do
right
online
now,
is
recorded. Every single bit that
online
goes on your Ethernet gateway is recorded.
Yeah.
They have actually now focused, just this recent project that I was on, they have now actually upgraded their entire infrastructure because they're getting so much data that they need to maintain their algorithms. I don't want to go into details, but it is a very real problem. Even looking at something like this up on Google, just from out of curiosity, could land you into trouble. And we'd be foolish to think that we're not being monitored.
Yeah, you're scaring me now because I have to do a lot of research for this.
Yeah.
But this is recording, so we know what this is for a good purpose. But that's very right. And to the brother's point, every single thing that you type online, or you press, or you look, is recorded. Please remember that for the youth. Every little thing gets recorded. And if you do something like this, or try to engage, or even out of curiosity, now you already know that this is worthless. You already know that these are people that are not worth your attention, your time. It's a waste of your energy. But if you go and look things like this up, or if you know somebody that's doing this, please pass the message along, right? If you know somebody that's confused about this type of these ideas and mentalities, or the things that are being brought to them, tell them to talk to their parents. Please talk to your parents. Tell them, if they don't want to talk to their parents, to talk to the Imam of the Masjid, or someone related to the Masjid, someone who has Islamic knowledge that can clarify these things. That's a command from Allah, right? If you want to be religious, you need to obey Allah. And Allah says, if you don't know, you ask people of knowledge, right? You can't just go on and on to Twitter and Google and make up your own mind. You need to ask people of knowledge. So please please don't hold things back. Bring them up before you end up doing something that's going to land you in trouble, that's going to land your families in trouble, and all this kind of stuff. Maybe yes, you had something?
Yeah, I have a suggestion for future sessions like this.
Yes.
I think three very important things. One is the online thing, online, like how, as parents, how do we, what are our responsibilities? Okay, for making sure that our kids are safe online, but also to teach the kids, okay, and the teenagers, okay, what's going on online and what are the dangers.
Excellent.
That's one. The other thing is the basically try to parents should know signs of depression, okay, and identify that as soon as possible and make sure that kids or teenagers always have a purpose for life. Because as soon as they lose the purpose, okay, terrible things can go wrong.
To that point, I think tomorrow we have a session here on Muslim wellness.
I don't think it's here, but I think, is it here?
I think it's here, I'm not sure. Please check the RCA's Facebook page. We do have a session on like Muslim wellness, and with what you're mentioning about all these these issues of like depression, anxiety, and things like that. So we are having something this tomorrow, I think between 4 to 6, and I believe it's here. But please check the Facebook page, RCA's Facebook page.
3 to 6.
3 to 6. 3 to 6. The licensed counselor. Yes, Muslim licensed counselor. We're going to have it here, inshaAllah. So,
yeah, but that's a session also for parents, for families, for kids.
yes, and that's something, I mean, that's something you can bring up with that licensed professional, because again, they're trained in that specific field as well. So I mean, that's something definitely you should bring up with them. And I can give you
tomorrow from 3 to 6.
Tomorrow from 3 to 6, and I think you do have to, there's a fee or something to it, but I mean, it's going to be worth it, inshallah. But, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, the third thing also, which is important, is that all of these events that are happening, especially here in the U.S., basically kids, young kids, okay, being caught, okay, or being recruited, all of this. So what especially if you are in a big city, let's say you're in Chicago or New York, not that it wouldn't happen here, but I would imagine that all those parents, okay, that have teenagers in that age, the automatic reaction is that, okay, I don't want my kids to be in trouble, so I will not encourage them actually to go to the masjids. Okay, because most of the recruiting happens there. And this may be a big trouble. Because, and I see in some masajid, really, the youth factor is missing. So we see our generation, the older generation, and the very young kids. And who are the teenagers? Who are the teens? Who are even like the young professionals?
Yes.
People who are 20, 24, 25. We don't see like there is a huge gap. Like 2 to 3 generations missing in the masajid.
Yeah.
Who are they? It could be explained by what's happening, by the political situation. So this is maybe a good topic to try to cover and understand and find solutions.
Any of the sisters? We have an unfair balance here, sorry. Yes, Sister Young.
I think also we should keep in mind the developmental stage that these kids are in. Teens, people in their late teens, early 20s. Everything that you're saying is absolutely, like, developmentally, they're looking for something pure, something better.
Yeah.
Often they criticize their parents. They see the flaws of their parents. Their eyes open up to the flaws of their parents when they're 16, 17, 18. And they see something perhaps that's not work. None of us are perfect. And they see it very clearly. And they may magnify it in their minds. I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to raise my kids like that in the future. They're already thinking and talking about how they're going to raise their kids in the future. And so we should kind of go along with understanding that developmental stage and give them lots of critical thinking, not lots of just, finger wagging.
I agree with that
don't do this and don't do that.
Because that's what I want them to look at this and think twice.
Only that way, and only listen to this one and not to that one.
Yeah.
You can go slide by slide, line by line, and ask our youth, what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this photograph? What's wrong with this line? And then it would naturally go into understanding that it's knowledge that's going to save us. What's going to save us is true, correct knowledge. Scholars and what they say, it's not just because they're old or they're bearded or they have authority. It's because they've studied and they understand things that other people, they're just, you know, playing on your emotions. So just turning it into a critical thinking exercise for our youth of that age.
That's an excellent suggestion. I think that would also be a good idea for a future series thing, is to actually have them in and do that exercise. Like you're saying, like it's to actually bring the youth in and show them and have them find things. That's an excellent idea, inshaAllah. Jazakallah khair. Any of the other sisters? I need to hear something from the youth. I need to hear something from the young people. Yes, Hassan, go. Huh? Waving hello. What do you guys, honestly, what do you think? Have you been exposed to any of this stuff? Online, with the media, have you heard about it or something? I know you guys have, so. Yeah.
I guess I've seen it online, I guess, but it hasn't really been much of an influence. I see it on the news, I guess, but I've never really come into contact with their Twitter or anything. It's kind of like, to be honest, it's kind of like, 22,000 miles away, but however long far, it's not affecting.
Alhamdulillah, I wish more people thought like you, but again, as you can see, the problem is real, right? The problem is people are being engaged, they are being targeted, they are responding and things like that. Alhamdulillah, you guys are not, and you're staying away. But, this is a real thing, and what you need to do is kind of take these messages and spread them out to it, because you have no idea who amongst your friends may be, following this or this or that. Also, one of the other tactics they used, how many of you guys actually use Twitter? You guys use Twitter? You guys want to use Twitter? One of the tactics they used was when the World Cup was going on, the hashtag that was being trended was World Cup 2014, right? Was it 2014 the World Cup, right? Yeah. So World Cup. So they started hashtagging their messages with World Cup 2014. So this way they reached out to like a huge number of audiences because people were looking up the hashtag, they were following it. So this is one of the tactics that they use. So you might end up seeing something from them because they use hashtags that are trending and just to get that message along, right? So this is a tactic that you can, unfortunately Twitter, this is how it works. So this is something how they can use. Anything else from some of the parents or the youth?
Regarding the Twitter, someone analyzed the flow of Twitter news that come, like negative news about what's going on with ISIS. Okay, and when something bad happens, then you get like a huge flood of information. Someone analyzed and found out that there was like only 10 accounts. Everything came from 10 accounts, and everything was replicated through these accounts. And the same people over and over.
Even some of the ones I showed you were actually from the same people. It's interesting to see that because there weren't many variety of people. It was the same people that I found the Twitter messages that I shared from as well.
I have a question. So has anyone triangulated on what are the specific attributes with all these kids that actually have been identified and arrested from a parenting standpoint? So has anyone looked at how?
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, if you read the Rolling Stone article, which we have shared on the RCM's Facebook, it's shared on my public profile as well. If you read that article, it's long and it details how these kids, the steps they took to go. Their parents, very religious. The kids went to Islamic school. 2 of them were Hafaz, right? 2 of them had finished memorizing the Quran. And one of the things that stood out to me was the young girl spent a lot of time, she was at home, she was homeschooled, right? I'm saying that's not a problem, but she spent a lot of time alone on the internet. She had access to a lot of time on the internet all by herself. And this is why she was able to, communicate so frequently with these people and so secretively. So she had access for long periods of time on the internet, and it was unmonitored. That's how one of the issues that happened with her. And the same thing with their other 2 kids. So everybody wants to trust their kids. You trust your kids, but as parents, you have responsibility over everything, over your kids. You have that right to say, I'm going to monitor this, I'm going to monitor that, right? You know who their friends are in real life. You should know who their friends are in their social life. So we have to. That's one of the things that has to be done. Is it has to be monitored. It has to be known what you're doing. It has to be public. It has to be shared. And like I said, they concealed all of this from their parents. So one thing that definitely stood out was, by the way, this girl, when she wrote her note to her mother, you'll see in the article, she said, this is the hardest thing in the world for me to do is to leave you, because I love you more than the world. Right? So these are kids that are attached to their parents. Right? They're not detached from their parents or anything like that, but they still were, the propaganda got to them in a sense, and they were told to conceal it from their parents, and they did, right? So also it's just, you know, you really, even though your kids are good, you trust your kids, and I'm not saying any of the kids here are going to be like that, but as a parent, you want to make sure you're monitoring, you know, what's going on. Because it's you know, or at least you talk to them openly about it. Because I think one of the things is that the parents, from the parent side, the parents had no idea ISIS existed, right? So this was also a problem. Their parents even had never heard of ISIS, they had no idea, so they were even unaware of what was going on with the Westerners going and doing things like that. So being aware of what's happening, talking about it with your kids, giving them your point of view so they just don't hear one point of view if they're listening to that point of view, right? They're hearing it from the other side. So I mean, that's, you know, kind of the thing. Like the brother mentioned that was here, listening to your kids, just you know, good parenting, talking to them, right? Watching, if you're seeing something on the news, talking to them about it. Did you hear about this? Did you know about this? Right? And then do you think it's right? And like Sister Yana was saying, like, you know, asking them questions and asking them to think about it and think critically rather than just repeating whatever it is that they're getting fed, whether it's the news or things like that. But those are two things. Brother Bassett.
So these tactics that you mentioned, you can take the word ISIS and you can put street gang.
Yeah.
And you can put American Patriot, and you can put, you know, Sons of Freedom, all kinds of groups that want to attract people that are, or young youth that are in that situation. Yeah. They use those same tactics. Yeah. I think one of the advantages that, alhamdulillah, we have as Muslims is we have the Quran, and we have some excellent scholars that have thought about these things, that have seen them happen before. So I'd like to suggest maybe as a next step, one of the next steps is to share some of the things that you've said, that you mentioned, about these scholars, what is the true teachings of the Quran, what are some of the very strong points that some of the scholars have made, so we can share it with our youth as well, as a way for them to sort of get directed back in the right direction, not to be drawn.
Excellent point. Again, this is something we can do as a future thing we come back. Two names that, by the way, stand out, two people that have online, you can go and look them up. Two scholars here from the States. One, Sister Jazakallah khair for sending me the link for Brother Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. He has a khutbah on this. I forgot what it was titled. What was the title? You know the title? The ISIS guy. I think that's where you got the name from. I took the name, by the way, from Sister Jazakallah, the crisis state. It was her idea. So Sheikh Hamza Yusuf has a whole khutbah on it. Sheikh Yasir Qadi has a more than hour-long lecture. Now again, this is probably more for the parents. I don't know how to get the youth. I encourage you to go and listen to it. It is for you. It's meant, that lecture is meant for you guys. It's more than an hour long, and it talks about, when the Bassett is talking about the idea of extremist movements in general, and what their ideologies are, because they're all the same. Like you're saying, they're all the same, whether it's the street gangs here, or whether it's any of the street groups from amongst our religious affiliation, right? Whether it's Al-Qaeda, or whether it's ISIS, things like that. What are the commonalities? What are their characteristics, what the Prophet ﷺ said about them, what the Quran has to say. And again, this is why I really want to discuss, you know, difficult situations that Muslims face in this world. And I want to give you one example. One example I want to give is that even the Prophet ﷺ was not able to solve or to deal with injustice all the time, right? And if you remember the Treaty of Al-Hudaybiyah, if you know anything about the Treaty of Al-Hudaybiyah that the Prophet ﷺ made, in that treaty, he basically agreed with the disbelievers of Mecca that for 10 years we're not going to have any war, we're going to have peace, right? All these things. But then they wanted some more conditions. And amongst those conditions was that, okay, you stay in Medina, we stay in Mecca. If any Muslim from Mecca runs away and goes to Medina without the permission of his guardian in Mecca, then you have to give him back to us. And the Prophet ﷺ signed off on this. He agreed with this. Right? And you think about, you know, subhanAllah, and if you mention something like this to these groups, and you just take out the Prophet's name, you say, what would you think of somebody if a Muslim ran to